Welcome back, everybody. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and we are your hosts today, Bull and Timmy G. P might be joining us here shortly, so we literally just left from his son's game, and it's on the other side of town. So we'll see if he can make it on before we finish with this stream. But Timmy G and everybody else, how are we doing? How do we feel about this game tonight versus Kent State?
Man, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Football time in Tennessee. I'm ready to go. We're not facing great competition this week, so I just hope we get in and handle business and get out without injury, man.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it, right? Just because,
Yeah.
like you said, I mean we're not playing nobody really today, and I don't even think that there's much that we can learn about our team, especially not with the starters today. We'll probably learn a lot more about those depth pieces, and that's really what it's all about. But this is one I feel like today, really, my biggest thing is just going to be watching Oklahoma. That game is probably going to be maybe a little bit more exciting than ours tonight. But like you said, man, like we just have to stay healthy, and we just got to execute everything from top to bottom. Let's get to a couple of these chats right here. See who all we got in here. So we've got T-Bag Gump says GBO, you already know, baby. Corey Aldridge, what's going on? Corey says GBO 76-6. I like that one, man. I think that we should be able to, come out and dominate. Now, one of my questions just kind of coming into this game, we all know that Nico, broke a record versus UT Chattanooga in that first half. I think 314 yards. Can he break that today? Will they even play that long? Is it just going to be, starters get in for like one quarter, then we bring in everybody else? Those types of things is what we're looking forward to today. But let's go on ahead and just pull up how our starting offense. Now that does say week one, y'all. Y'all don't, you don't have to even pay any attention to that. But this right here is how our starters should look this week. I don't know if we're going to have any offensive linemen maybe sit out. I've heard some of the insiders talking about that kind of leading up to this game, saying, well, some of the offensive linemen were banged up and limping, which is pretty normal, as far as, like from where I'm sitting at, that's pretty normal for the offensive line. But if Nico starts, all five of our starters need to go. But is there anybody that stands out to you with the starters on offense, Timmy G?
No, I'm just going to carry over with what you just said. Like Nico needs to play with the ones. That's it.
Yeah.
No backups. If it's not Coop and the rest of the gang up there, man, then Nico needs to sit. But I haven't heard anything on anybody being banged up. Of course, you know how they are with that. They keep that
Yeah.
close to the vest. I was not going to anything at all.
Right.
But yeah, man, I think we're pretty healthy. We'll see. I think we're going to see some young guys come in and play today. Some guys that we haven't seen, and really excited.
Yeah, yeah. So now, when I said banged, I just want for people to understand. I'm not saying that people are necessarily hurt, but with football, man, like you're gonna kind of be sore, all of that type of stuff, especially whenever you play how we play versus NC State, where we're just dominant. But we're dominant, in that box area. So sometimes guys can get a little bit sore. Maybe they would want to rest in this one before we head into SEC play next weekend. But like you said, Timmy G, if Nico's out there, I think that our starting five offensive line, they better have their butts out there too. And also, like, you need to show that toughness. I don't mean to necessarily start anything, but if you think back to last season with John Campbell, I mean, he missed all of our biggest games. Like, he didn't play versus UGA. It was another one. I want to say maybe Missouri, he barely played, or maybe he didn't play. But it's stuff like that. I just need to know that y'all are going to be here whenever we need you. So that's something that I feel like they need to work on. Hey, look, learn how to kind of fight through that type of stuff, that soreness and all that. You got to play with that. Like, you're going to have to at some point this season. So, I mean, the load is not going to be heavy on our starters. But, man, just get in, get out, and then you can rest and start to kind of like look towards next weekend versus Oklahoma. We will talk some about we will talk some about that Oklahoma game in in this stream, just because it's not a whole lot for us to talk about with Kent State. But outside of our offensive line, right? Let's talk about the starters, just as far as running backs, all those skill guys, tight ends, wide receivers. What are you expecting from our running back group today? Do you think that DeSamp starts, or do you think that maybe Bishop or Cam Selden will play to, start that first series?
Well, I think you're going to see DeSamp start, and then I think you're going to see a healthy mix of Bishop, though. And honestly, man, he's been one of the guys I've been most impressed by of the young guys so far. Like, he just seems so far ahead of most running backs you see that come in at that age, just his vision, his patience. Some of the he looks a lot like D Samp when he runs, very explosive. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I want to see Peyton Lewis. I want to see some of these young guys we hadn't seen. I think this is what we're going to get to see on offense.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, I love what I've seen from the young running backs so far. They definitely need to continue to grow throughout this season because teams are going to start trying to key in on, you know, what D Samp likes to do. And I think that he is a dog. I've said this several times. I think that he's one of the top 3 running backs in the whole country. And some people, like some of the national analysts and media people, all that, they're starting to kind of talk about him, which is great for him. But this is one that I don't really need to see him go in. I don't think that there's any reason for that. Let's get some of those younger guys ready to rock and roll, especially for next weekend. When I think that, you know, not to kind of, you know, look too far to Oklahoma this early on in this video, but I think that we will see another heavy dose of our running game versus Oklahoma just based off of the way that they like to play. But whenever you talk about our wide receivers, okay, number one, we got guys like Squirrel, Brew, Chris Bradshaw. They haven't scored any touchdowns. The wide receivers really didn't have a whole lot of production last weekend. And that's just because NC State dropped 8. So, of course, we're just going to run it.
Yeah.
And use our tight ends as much as possible. But inside of this game, Timmy G, I think that we will see a really nice dose of our wide receivers. So what are your expectations out of that room? Just maybe talking about the starters, but also some of those depth pieces, because I do think that obviously a whole lot of the young guys will get to play. But what do you think about that room and what we could see from them today versus a pretty terrible Kent State defense?
Well, I think Heupel's going to show. I'm interested to see what Heupel does here, man, because he's such a poker player. Like, what is he going to show Oklahoma? Is he going to show them something to give their defensive coordinator nightmares? I mean, is he going to do something to have these guys in cold sweats? I don't know. What I do want to see is just what you said, though, man. I think there's going to be all sorts of opportunities over the top. These guys aren't dropping 8. Like, it's going to be a totally different game. But I want to see the young guys. I want to see Staley. I want to see Mike Matthews. I want to see these kids that we haven't got to see any play yet. Look, I'd love to see Brew get a touchdown, Dante get a touchdown. Man, I want all of our guys to score. But, you know, man, I also want to see some of these young guys to get in there and get a taste too. So it's when you got this many options to throw to, man, it gets crazy. I mean, like, look at where we're at from where we were 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, you had a set number of guys. You knew who was going to be in every play, right? Jalen Hyde, Brew McCoy, Cedric Tillman, Squirrel, or dang, man, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name at the Raiders now.
Oh, I think you're talking about Keaton.
Yeah. Keaton. Florida catch. Amazing.
Yeah, that was great.
Dude. But yeah, man, I you know, trying to spread the wealth, and we got a lot of wealth right now. So let's see what happens.
Yeah. I really think that we're going to stretch the field out vertically today just because we've shown so much of that 12 personnel last weekend and, you know, just being able to kind of like utilize our tight ends. But I think now what we want to put out there on film is that we can still stretch the field vertically. So we'll do a little bit of that. You know, I think that we'll still be very, very basic and also be able to put up those points. It's going to be all about execution. Of course, we want to see Nico come out and have a really clean game, take care of the football, you know, dropping it into the perfect spots for those wide receivers. You want to see him continuing to block on the outside. It's something that we've done so well, I feel like, since Heupel has been up, you know, in Knoxville, but also, man, if you just go back just from the start, just from the first week of this season to this point, wide receivers are playing like dogs. So we want to see that continue, Timmy G, like you said, even with all of our young players too. And I'm sure that will happen. Now, let's talk about that tight end room while we're talking about the offense. Obviously, man, whenever you got guys like Ethan Davis, Holden Stays, and Miles Kitselman all having scored at this point in the season, it feels like we could end up having more production from that room. I mean, maybe than we've ever had at Tennessee. You know, tight ends have been utilized, but just as far as the numbers and stuff, and I don't know Jason Witten's off the top of my head, but I think that we could probably have one of those guys possibly, you know, be able to break some of those numbers just because we use our tight ends so well. We'll see how much we decide to use them in this game. I know that Heupel wants to make sure the teams know that they will be a big part of our offense every single week. Just put it out there on film, because whenever the DCs have the game plan for all these different phases of our offense, it makes it so difficult to stop. It makes the actual players that have, oh, I got to worry about this, I got to worry about that. It makes it a real nightmare for everybody. And I think that's where we want them at. We want them kind of back on their heels, just kind of, guessing, what's going to happen here, and maybe over processing and thinking. So don't be surprised if we, get a good dose of our tight ends today, just not as much, I think, as last weekend. But what do you think about this? What do you think about our tight end room so far with what you've seen, Timmy G?
Man, you've got to go back to the early 2000s till we've seen like
Yeah.
tight end kind of production like this. Like this is
Yeah.
uncharted territory for us,
Mhm.
basically. I mean, have we been there before? Yeah, I think we have, but it's been a long, long time ago, man. It
Yeah.
has been so long ago. They've got some weapons. An interesting stat I saw this week was Miles Kitselman. All his years at Alabama, he had 2 catches for like 15 yards.
Yeah.
He's played at Tennessee in 2 games, right?
Mhm.
2 games, and he has the catches were more than double than what he had at Alabama in that time frame. He
Yeah.
also had 2 touchdowns, which he didn't have any at Alabama. Like they've got some weapons, man. They've got some guys that are going to be dangerous. And this is the scary thing about Heupel, is he's showing teams stuff that they've never seen before. Like
Yeah.
North Carolina, they were like, "Hey, we've never seen them run 12 personnel. We didn't know that was a thing." You throw that out there, and you're like, "Hey, man, you want to drop 8? That's fine. We're just going to run it down your throat, right?"
Right.
And not only that, when they start running it down there, you had Squirrel that broke out, snuck out of the backfield on that one play for a really nice pass. It opens options. So I'm
For sure.
excited.
Yeah. I mean, it's no doubt. And I pulled up these stats right here for y'all, just so that we can just kind of take a look at what the production has been like with our passing game. Man, I think that this looks pretty good, right? So we have 49 catches total, 625 yards. That should end up being over 1,000 after this game. So I mean, yeah, I would say that just from a production standpoint, we look really good. And Timmy G, I think that you made an excellent point, just kind of showing what Miles Kitselman did playing with Alabama versus what he's doing right now inside of our system. Coach Heupel, our whole staff, does the best job of getting the most out of their players. So I think that that's part of the reason that we've seen such an influx in blue chip caliber talent wanting to come to Tennessee, because we are getting the most out of our guys. So that's huge. And, again, knowing that we can use 2, 3, maybe even 4 tight ends throughout an entire season, you have to feel great about that 2026 class. We already got in Carson Snead, 4-star tight end. He's going to be an absolute and total dog. I can't wait to get him up on campus. And then also, man, we've got Kendra Harrison, who plays at Providence Day with David Sanders. He loves Tennessee. I think that we're in his top 2. It was some questions a little bit earlier in this process. Would we take both of those tight ends in that class? And I think that not only will we do it, but I think that we definitely could do it, because both of those guys can see, hey, look, it doesn't matter how many good tight ends we get in. We're still going to get our opportunities whenever that time comes. So I think that that's really big, man.
Just
everything.
want to say something real quick. I saw Deshaun Brain balling out last night. Like,
oh yeah.
That's scary in high school. When you see a tight end looks like that, it can move like that, coming around the end with the head of steam. Hey, that's when you got to pull that Kirby Smart and make that business decision, like he had to do with Jamal Lewis. He's like, hey man, I'm going to step back a minute.
Yep. So I mean, things definitely look great. And then also too, y'all, I don't know how many people got to watch it, but I did. We did stream the Beaufort versus Douglas County game last night, and Justin Baker, who is a running back commit for 2025 for us, he had a great game. Now he's splitting time with Tyreek Green, who is very high up on Tennessee as well. And Ty plays running back, and he also plays safety. I think he's probably going to end up playing safety in college, but both of those guys play very well. But, man, Justin Baker splitting time with really 4 running backs in Beaufort's system. He had 2 touchdowns, probably over like 100 yards on maybe 5 or 6 carries. So he was a very pivotal part in Beaufort beating excellent Douglas County team. Whole lot of D1 talent. So if y'all missed that game, go back, check it out, and watch what Justin Baker did. It's a lot to be excited about with our Volunteers, I feel like, this season. But let's go on ahead. Well, you know what? Before we turn the page, because we didn't really talk too much about the backups on the offensive line, I want to see what Jesse Perry gives to us, because I think that Jesse Perry, playing at either tackle or playing at guard, maybe even at center, he's one of those do-it-all guys. He can play any position, I feel like, at a really high level. And he's one of those guys that actually has shocked me. I knew that he was going to be good, but I didn't think that he would be this good this early on. I want to see what he gives to us, because I think that Larry Johnson had some, kind of like missteps in the game versus UT Chattanooga. So Larry Johnson needs to step up, but we also need to find another tackle or just another swing backup guy. I think that Jesse Perry could prove himself to be that in this game. Also, with the backup center, it sounds like it's going to end up being William Satterwhite. I really like what he's been doing. Can he continue to grow and give us some confidence right there? But listen, Timmy G, I love what I've seen from Andre Carrick. I think that he has been probably the biggest surprise on the offensive line this whole season. He's probably been one of the more consistent guys up front. He's bullying people, looks good getting to his pass sets, all that type of stuff. And I just think that we need to continue to find that depth. But I am very impressed with those two names just so far in the season. But what have you seen, if anything, from some of the backups on that offensive line? Is it anybody that you're starting to trust more, or even anybody, with our starting group that you feel like you have more trust in at this point in the season?
I think the offensive line as a whole has looked good. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't seen. I didn't notice a big difference when they put in the second string last week. I didn't see a huge drop off. Now, of course, look, I think they broke their spirit by that time. Like that was, I watched some of those NC State podcasts after that.
Ooh,
But
boy.
it's bad. It's bad, man.
It was.
But no, man, I think they've all done good. I like what I've seen. These guys are playing with some attitude, man. You got these guys pancaking guys. I saw one play. It was Hurd and Campbell. Both of them are on. They both pancake two guys at the same time. Like these guys are getting after it, man. They're playing with attitude. You saw them take those dudes to the water cooler,
Man. Hey, look, that you love seeing stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It shows the overall attitude of this team. And obviously it starts up front on both sides. But having all those vets coming back and just the way that they've been teaching all these young guys, everyone's bought in. I mean, even Nico's playing like a dog on offense. And we're about to talk about defense here in just a second. But that front, it's about what we thought, right, Timmy G? We said, look, they're going to be getting after that quarterback. And that echoes to the second level and to that third level, where everyone's playing a lot faster. They're having a whole lot of fun and really getting after it. So, yeah, I mean, I love the whole makeup of this team from top to bottom. And again, man, it starts up front. Let's get to a few chats right here. We've got Brian Lemon says, got to keep it from getting chippy and get out without significant injuries. 100%. I think that is, that's definitely the biggest thing for this game. Now let's get to some more. That right there is from you, Timmy G.
Yeah, I was telling Brian hi. He's from back home, man. I've known that dude for forever. Yeah.
All right, cool. Hey, you know what? Real quick, Timmy G, what's the weather like up there right now?
Well, I'm in Middle Tennessee right now. Brian would know more about it because he is in Knoxville. Yeah, I'm in Middle Tennessee. It's overcast here today. I don't know what it's going to be doing down there, but hopefully it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, hopefully so. So it's the same thing here. It's kind of like almost like an Irish spring mist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just very, very misty. It's a little bit gloomy, but I think that it's perfect weather. This would probably be good weather if that's what they end up having tonight, just because it's going to keep you cool, all that type of good stuff. But that is something that I had meant to ask you. But let me go ahead and get to this one right here. From Carlos Negro says, "Go Big Orange." Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get to some more. We got my dog TN Jr. in the house. What's going on? TN Jr. says, Sat getting there. Okay, yes, Sat. I think Sham can pull Tom and be good. Yeah, so I love what I've seen from all those guys. Obviously Shamrod Umarov is who I thought would be the starter at left guard. But Andre Carrick has really proven himself. I think that Jackson Lampley has also looked good. So it's really all about that depth up front. And this is an issue with teams like Alabama that we probably would have never thought would actually be the case. But versus South Florida, I think really to start this whole season off, they didn't start their two tackles. their two starting tackles until like the fourth quarter of that South Florida game. Then they took over. But that tells you a lot about the drop off in depth that they have versus what we have. I think that we are in a really good spot. This is for sure a playoff team. Right here we have Des Cook says, "Go Big Orange." Let's see what else we got right here from Brian Lemons is saying sunny and high mid 80s. Okay,
That's
like that.
perfect football weather right
Yeah,
there,
that
brother.
is perfect. So hopefully it'll kind of get down to maybe like the mid 70s by kickoff. That would be beautiful. T and Junior saying that it's an overcast where he's at, and T and Junior also said should be okay by game time. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and flip the page. Let's see. Do we have the defense on here? Actually, you know what? I don't know if I've got the defense in here. Let's see if we can find it. I might not have put the defensive starters in here. Okay. This is it right here.
Okay.
Yep. Here we go. All right. So this is how our defensive starters should look. And obviously, we'll start off up front. James Pierce, I feel like he's going to have a big one today just because, man, Kent State's offensive line is not good at all. I think that everyone up front should wreak havoc. They'll probably do a whole lot of what UT Chattanooga did. I'm expecting a little bit of cut blocking. Hopefully, it ain't going to be too much, but they'll try to get the ball out of their hands quickly. We'll see. Do we kind of sit back in pass coverage like we did versus UT Chat, or will we come up and challenge Kent State's wide receivers? It'll probably be, almost the exact same game plan on defense. But, man, we got a whole bunch of dogs up front. What are you expecting to see, Timmy G, from this absolutely dominant, ridiculously good front that we have coming up tonight?
Man, I keep seeing guys that surprise me for whatever reason. Everybody was high on Pierce coming into this year. Everybody knew James Pierce, James Pierce. And I think he is an excellent player. And I see people that are now saying, oh, he's not that good. He doesn't even have any sacks. Like, he is disruptive. He's eating double teams. People are scheming around this guy. They're in fear of him. But what he's done, like, I don't think you can do that. And I think teams are going to realize that you can't double him because the guy next to him, you might need to put a double on him. They're doubling Big O. They're doubling Norman Lott on certain plays. Like, you got guys coming from everywhere. And the guy so far that surprised me the most, Jason Jenkins.
Yeah.
Like that guy is playing really good. That strip sack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know you played football, man. And sometimes you have those moments where time slows down. Hey, bro, he stripped that ball, got it around the backside of him and fell on it. Like, that's some next level matrix stuff that dude pulled off right then.
Yeah. So was that Jason Jenkins or was that Don Bailey? Or did both of them get one?
That was Jason. I think that was Jason Jenkins that got that strip sack. If I'm not, I could be mistaken, but I thought it was Jason Jenkins. But I've seen him make some plays, man, and he's not a guy that I was. I love seeing that. I love seeing these guys that, are getting all the hype and all of a sudden, they flash. You're like, all right, let's go, But Peely is a dog.
Oof, man.
Peely is an animal. Like, guys, that's why they say never mess with the quiet guy.
Yeah.
He seems to me like he would be the quiet guy, just sitting there, just all nice. And but he's got that killer in him, man.
He does.
When Will Brooks got that pick, he chased Jolly, whatever, and just took him down, bro. Like, you ain't getting my guy. And look, he plays with bad intentions, man. I really like what I'm seeing from him.
Yeah. So, and actually, in the most recent film breakdown that we did of the second quarter's defense, man, it was a play where Keenan Peely, I believe, was supposed to be blitzing off of the edge. It was a 3rd and short right there by the goal line. I think NC State might have been like on the 8, whatever it was. So I think that he noticed the formation that NC State came out in, and he was expecting some crossing routes. We were playing man-to-man coverage, so we actually broke it down. What Peely did right there is he fakes like he's coming off of the edge, backs up, and actually bumps one of NC State's wide receivers so that Christian Harrison, who was guarding him, could catch up to him.
I saw that.
Then he sees NC State's quarterback roll out, and then he rolls out with him while playing in pass coverage, comes up, and then makes the tackle, him and Bryson Eason. But he hit NC State's quarterback so hard that it knocked Bryson Eason's face mask almost all the way off of his helmet. So that's the type of stuff that Keenan Peely can bring to a team. And he's one that I would say, hey, if we can sit him out, that would be perfect because we definitely will need him versus Oklahoma. He just brings so much to the game. But our linebackers, man, as a whole, I love what I'm seeing from them. We are so much more athletic inside of that room. And
And they're
I'm
so
actually thinking,
young. And they're
yeah,
so young.
yeah,
Minus Peely, they are
mhm,
so young. And they're definitely playing better. You know, I'm really impressed with T Lander from what I've
yeah,
seen. Just really instinctual. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the slowest either. But he's
hmm
very instinctual. He just seems to be there. He strikes. He must be a coach's kid or something.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Something tells me he's a coach's kid. Like he
yeah.
has a really good understanding of the game.
Yeah, so his dad did or maybe still does coach NFL ball. So yeah, I mean he is for sure. And then too, I think that people kind of sleep on how good of an athlete he actually is. I mean he can move. You know, he plays well out in space, but he's able to ID things quickly, and he's got that. I mean he is such a dog. He is a true dog, and I think that I really kind of like started to love him. It was a sit down with Austin Price where he's saying I can't wait to see Georgia. But we've heard several of our players saying that. So I know he's going to step up for, for all those big games, all those big moments. But I would expect for him to have a really big day. And also, Caleb Perry's going to be back today. He missed last weekend. What does he do? I think that Jalen Smith has really come a very long way, especially compared to what we saw with him in spring. And then also, Edwin Spillman should get to go in this game. I don't know what's going on with Jordan Burns. I haven't heard for sure what's going on there. But if he does get to play, I want to see what he looks like. So, I mean, yeah, I think that our linebackers, we could be really deep right there. I think we've got a 4 or 5, maybe 6 guys that we really trust inside of that room that could play either Will or play Mike. And for some people who may not understand this, Mike is going to be in pretty much any defense. Typically, they will take on more of those blocks, and they won't be as free to make plays. They won't play as much outside of that box area. And the Will is the one that would play more out in space and is a little bit more freed up to make those plays. I actually think that Keenan Pili has been playing a little bit more Will this season than we thought. So that says a lot about the versatility to be able to put, Arion Carter or T-Lander or any of those guys inside of the box to, kind of play in between those tackles while they can also play out in space. So I love our linebacking room. And, I think that's another group that's being slept on right now. But at some point this season, people are going to take note of just how good they actually are. So, you know what? I also want to talk some about Jordan Ross. This is a game that I feel like he should play a lot.
Yes.
At Leo, I think that he's going to wreak havoc today. That's one to definitely, start to get, juiced up for. Expect for him to make some plays and to get some sacks. And don't be surprised if he turns into one of our real pieces at some point this season, because even though he's a true freshman, I think he's the biggest Leo, and he might actually, as quiet as this is kept, he might be the fastest Leo that we have too.
That's scary. If he's the
Yeah.
fastest, that's absolutely frightening. Yeah.
Yeah, he is a dog. So let's talk some about the secondary, man. What are you expecting from that group, and what have you seen? Like, what have you liked? Is there anything that you feel like we need to maybe get better at? Before we see Oklahoma, that we'll be looking out for in today's game. What have you seen from that whole group?
Well, so far so good, but I don't think we've been well. I guess I shouldn't say that because we did see Concepcion, but I don't think the pieces were around him were good enough to make a difference.
Yeah,
I'm not going to pass judgment on those guys till we get into SEC play. So far, so good. I mean, look, man, defense hasn't allowed a touchdown
mm-hmm.
in 3 games. That's going back to with the Citrus Bowl, right? Iowa or
Yeah,
or Cheez It Bowl. God,
yeah.
man.
Cheese it. Is it the citrus cheese it bowl? Whatever it is, I think that
Yeah,
it's the exact same bowl. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah. But I mean, they haven't allowed a touchdown. Like, so they're doing something right, obviously. Let's see, man. I don't think we're going to see anybody who's going to test us in the secondary really until we get into SEC play. I'm not 100% sure that even it might be Oklahoma. I'm thinking Florida. Honestly, they've got some pretty good skill position guys there, but maybe I'm overlooking somebody in Arkansas or one of those other games. But I don't think it's going to be till SEC games till we see these guys, until we know what we really got. What I've seen so far, man, they're flying around. They're hitting people. Idris Farouk, you see him come in
Oh
at the
boy,
end. He's like, "Hey,
my goodness.
I'm going to take advantage of my play time."
Yes, sir.
Hey, that was very Peely like.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that's just guys coming in and flying to the ball, and I love it. Even Boo, true freshman, lined up on KC Concepcion on that crazy little ISO play, that little trick play they
Yeah,
did there.
yeah,
And hey, did he beat him? Yeah, but you know what? He was close enough to make that tackle and not give that guy any more yards. So
yeah.
hey, I think Boo is going to be special.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. I'm very so you can just tell that he's got that it factor. I think number one, he's got a great personality. But what I love about it, and I know I keep on saying this, y'all, but this is what Heupel has built. We've got a team full of dogs. I mean, just like their
yeah,
mindset is that they don't care, and the moment's not too big for them. That is so important. It might not show up right now for us, but whenever we get to the playoffs, y'all, this season, and whenever we get to the championship, having that mindset, that is going to be so big. And I think that Boo definitely has that. You can tell that he's a great athlete. And on that little play that NC State had to draw specifically for Boo,
yes,
matched up versus their best player, I think that speaks volumes to how little they were able to get going. And I mean, there's not too many people on the face of the planet that would have stuck with that route versus a player with that speed, because it doesn't take much for you to get open on something like that. The whole middle of the field was wide open. But I will say this, versus Oklahoma, everything that we kind of felt like KC would have been for NC State, they've got a kid named Burke that's only about 5'8", but I mean, he is a real, like, legitimate track speed guy. And Oklahoma hasn't really used him that much, on in the vertical passing game. But I would expect that they'll try to coming up next weekend versus us. They'll probably try to use that some today. But he's a guy that could kind of pose some threats to our defense. But like we said, the same thing with NC State. You got to have multiple real threats for
yeah.
us to feel, any sort of a way about what you're going to do to us on defense. It's because we do a great job of scheming up versus one, maybe two people. You need 3, 4, 5 before it's going to be an issue for us. So, I think that we will be fine from that perspective. And I would echo all those same sentiments. I think that the secondary has played well. I think that they've answered several questions, at least that I had, kind of like early on, but there is still more to go because we have to see better competition versus better teams and all that type of stuff. But our two cornerbacks, they've been very solid. Now, just kind of going back through the film from last weekend so many times, I think that Ricky Gibson might have blown a couple of coverages. Hard for me to say because I'm not inside of that room, but it looked like maybe he wasn't in the correct spots. That's something that's very easy for us to get fixed. Don't expect for that to be an issue, moving forward. So I will be watching that in today's game. How does Ricky Gibson look out in coverage? But they come up, they get off blocks. They make really good tackles. I've been very impressed, Timmy G, with our tackling as a whole. Talked about, hey, man, maybe early on in this season, tackling could be one of our weak points. But we've done a phenomenal job with that. And I think that just goes back to how many veterans we have on defense, period. But, I think that our stars have played well. Safeties, I mean, dude, we're actually rotating safeties. I mean, how often do we do that? You know what I'm saying? We rarely ever rotated safeties. I feel like I think we have
Never.
3, maybe 4 guys that we actually trust back there now.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, guys are flying to the ball. They're coming downhill. The tackling has been great, and that's something in the past, even going back to old school Tennessee, like that was a problem even back
Yep.
then. Like just not wrapping up, guys hitting them low and bouncing off, and like
Yep.
man, just wrap up. But yeah, man, I'm impressed. Like these guys are playing with some heart, and they're playing like they got something to prove. You know.
100%.
That's what it looks to me like. Like they want to show you something, and that's the attitude you need to have.
100%. So we are getting close to 12 o'clock. This one kind of flew by a lot faster than I thought it would. I wanted to talk a little bit about Oklahoma, which we kind of snuck some of that in there, but I hope that everyone will have an opportunity just to kind of take a look at them today. I think that they've got a good test, and we'll talk about that game here in just a second. But we will see. I want for them to win that game and have a little bit of confidence, because I do think that it would be important for us to get a little bit of a challenge, because after that Oklahoma game, we have that bye week. We need for guys to have a little bit to, kind of focus on, work on, but, while also staying confident. But you don't want to get too overconfident, because I think that Arkansas is a good team. So let's go ahead and pull this up. These are the picks so far. And actually, this is all just from last weekend. That's when that's when I started to keep count. And P probably did not make this one. But look at this, y'all. Timmy G's actually leading right now. He went 4-4 last weekend. Yes, sir. You are in the lead. And I'm in second place. I went 3. I got 3 right, and then I got 4 wrong. And now P, he only got 2 right. So let's go ahead and get to the first pick of today. At 12 o'clock, man, we've got Alabama versus Wisconsin. The game is going to be at Wisconsin. Alabama is favored by 16 points. The over-under is going to be 49.5. At least it was last night. That line could have moved some just to taste. But Timmy G, what are you thinking about this one, man? This is another one. I will be watching this one all the way up till 12:45, which is when Oklahoma kicks off. But what do you think about this one, Timmy G?
Is this in Alabama or is this in Wisconsin?
No, this is in Wisconsin.
Oh, man, I don't know enough about Wisconsin really. I mean, the Wisconsin I remember was Wisconsin Gold, right? Ron Dane, on his just bully ball, man. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're looking at that right now, but maybe I don't know. I'm going to take Alabama to win, but I think maybe Wisconsin could beat the spread here. Let's see.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you, Timmy G. I'm just curious to see what does Alabama look like versus Wisconsin's front, especially with their offensive line. Because in my opinion, it sounds like maybe they've got some issues there. And if they have some issues with that offensive line, obviously it's still very early on in this season. But if they have issues there, then that offense is not going to be what it's supposed to be. We know that Washington last season, which, that exact same offense, that offensive line was really good, and that's why they were able to get the ball down the field. So I will also pick Alabama to win this game, going for Wisconsin, of course. But I'm going to pick Wisconsin to be able to cover that spread. Now, the next one, also at noon, we've got LSU versus USC Junior. The game will be in South Carolina, and LSU's favored only by 6.5. Again, this is as of last night. The over-under is 48.5. I think that South Carolina is overrated, but I also think that LSU is always overrated. Who do you got in this one, Timmy G?
Man, this is a tough one to call. I tell you what, I don't like either one of them. I think neither one of them are good, to be honest. But I will say this for South Carolina, they're playing at South Carolina. Look, the end times are upon us. How do I know? Game day is at South Carolina, and Vandy might be 3-0 for the first time.
Wow.
Wrap it up. It's over. But no, for real, South Carolina is not an easy place to play at. We know that. We saw, what happened. I do believe there might have been a little Mr. What was the dude's name up there at Michigan that was it? Stallions.
Stallions.
Maybe. But man, I don't know. I think both teams are trash. If Brian Kelly loses, who's he going to blame this week? Like, I don't know. God, I hate to say it. I can't say South Carolina. I'm leaning that way, but I'm going to give me LSU. Give me LSU. I'm going to say LSU. I think just because they're at home though, I feel like South Carolina can pull it out.
Yeah.
I just can't because of Beamer. No matter what I think, I can't because of Beamer. So I'm going to say LSU. I don't like Kelly either, man. This is a lose for me. Remember when you said I wish they could both lose?
Yep.
All right, here we are.
Okay. All right. So you are officially going to be picking LSU.
I'll say LSU.
Okay. I think that I would probably roll with LSU in this one too. I don't believe in South Carolina. I just don't. Now, if they come out and if they play well, then I'll look at it a little bit different. But they've got that Dylan Stewart kid. This will be my first time really getting a good chance to watch him very closely. So I want to see what he can do. If you have one guy that's a real game wrecker, like they say that he is, they're saying, oh, he's like Clowney 2.0. If he's that good, then that could make a huge difference. So we'll see, man. LSU needs to get their run game going. I think that they do that today, and I'm going to go ahead and pick them to win. And as far as the 6.5, I'm going to pick LSU to cover in this one as well. So next game at 12:45, we've got Mizzou versus Boston College. This game is going to be in Missouri, and Mizzou was favored and probably still is by 14.5 points. The over/under is 53.5. Who do you have right here, Timmy G?
Once again, don't like the coach, Dorkwitz. But look, if Missouri if they can stop the run, they're going to win this game.
Yeah.
I think Boston College is that's their whole game plan. We're going to come in, establish the run, and push on you. Can they do that on an SEC defense? I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. And Missouri had a good defense last year. I don't know how many pieces they lost and what they're missing and what's going on yet. But I want Boston College to win,
Right.
but I will take Missouri.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm right there with you, Timmy G. I'm probably going to be picking Dork and his whole bunch to go out there and win. I think that this one's going to be a little bit tighter, but I could also see, I could see this being kind of a blowout, just because Boston College, like you said, if they can establish some sort of a running game, I don't know what they're going to be able to do down the field. I know that Missouri's I think that they've got a pretty stout defense, but this will be their first real test, so we'll see how stout it actually is. I will go ahead and pick Missouri to win, but I'm going to pick Boston College to cover on the points. Next we have at 3:30. We've got Oregon versus Oregon State. Obviously, this is a big rivalry game. I think it's called like the Apple Bowl or Apple Cup, whatever it is. This one again. This is going to be at 3:30, and Oregon is favored by 16 points. The over/under is 49.5. Who do you got on this one, Timmy G? Because I've watched some of Oregon. I'm not too impressed with them. I think that they've got some issues. And Oregon State usually plays them pretty close. But what are you thinking right here?
Oregon hasn't looked good so far. They've definitely been underwhelming, and
Yeah.
I think everybody has said that. That's why we've seen them drop in the polls. I don't think they're going to have a good year. I'm going to go with the pick here on Oregon because I feel like Vegas knows more about this game than I do.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll take Oregon on that one.
Yeah. You know what? I'm actually going to go ahead and pick an upset right here. I'm going to pick Oregon State to win this game because the game is going to be at Oregon State. And like I said, I feel like Oregon does have some issues. I'm definitely going to pick Oregon State to cover on those points. No question. I just don't see Oregon being able to, but also too, Oregon State did lose a whole lot of pieces. I still think that this game is going to be a lot closer than the experts think. So I'm going to pick Oregon State in an upset in this game. Now, the next one, this is going to be at 3:30. You know what? I feel like this game might actually be at 12:45. Either way, I don't know exactly what time this game is, but this is a big one for us to watch as Vol fans. Oklahoma versus the Tulane Green Wave. Oklahoma is only favored by 13 points. The over-under is 46.5. I can tell y'all right now, Tulane has a pretty solid team. I like their offense. They've got a really good quarterback, and I think that he could pose some threats maybe to Oklahoma's defense. The biggest question is going to be with Oklahoma's offensive line. I don't think that Tulane has a crazy amount of pass rushers, but they got some guys that could maybe get after Jackson Arnold in this game. Oklahoma's going to want to come out and establish that running game. Can they do that versus the Green Waves front seven? We will see. But Timmy G, who are you picking in this game?
I'm taking Tulane.
Yeah,
I think this is a trap game for OU. Okay. I think if OU gets caught looking ahead to us, they're in trouble. Tulane can play. From what I saw last week, they look like they were a pretty decent club. And if OU is overlooking them and they're thinking about us, they're in trouble. But we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, shoot. All right, so that's a pretty bold take, but I don't think that it's that bold because I think that this game will definitely be close. I will pick Tulane to cover with the points, but I am going to pick Oklahoma to win this game. They still got some dudes, and I think that they started to kind of figure something out. They're probably going to try a few different things. We'll see that they, run some of that gap scheme stuff where they're pulling their offensive linemen and not as much downhill, like inside zone stuff. We'll see how that works for them. Hopefully, the offensive line doesn't gel too much in this one, because I think that if the offensive line gets together, all of a sudden, the game in Norman next weekend with our Volunteers could, that one could get a lot more interesting. But I am going to pick Oklahoma to win this one outright. The next one, man, at 7:30, we've got UGA versus Kentucky. The game is going to be at Kroger Field. UGA is favored by 22 points, and the over-under is 44.5. What do you got right here, Timmy G?
Kentucky. You are in for it. Your all your broadcasters keep gaslighting you and telling you the most delusional, crazy crap I've ever heard, man. Yeah. Talking about he better be worried because Stoops will be pissed. You listen. Georgia is getting ready to stomp a mud hole in you and walk it dry. Yeah. Like that's what I think. I would probably take Georgia in the over if I thought their offense was what it was last year.
Mhm.
But we'll see. I don't think Kentucky stands a chance, and this might be Stoops' last year, depending on how this plays out. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Kentucky better be very careful trying to fire Mark Stoops because Kentucky really isn't. I mean, as far as football goes, right? That's not some destination, right? Like, I mean, people, it's more of like a pit stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to end
Yeah,
or coaching there just because they're never
yeah,
going to be
man.
one of those teams, right?
See, that's the problem.
Yeah,
Kentucky's delusional. They don't know
yeah,
that. Like they think, no, it's his fault. We're gonna get rid of him and everything. No, man, that
no,
ain't the way it's gonna work. But
no,
that's
no,
what
no.
we're gonna do.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. So yeah, man, there's a part of me that wants to say maybe Kentucky comes out and plays well versus Georgia, but that offensive line was absolutely horrendous last weekend. It might be, I mean, it might be the worst offensive line that I've watched play all season. I think it's worse than how Oklahoma's offensive line has looked, and their offensive line has looked terrible. So I am going to go ahead and pick UGA to win this one. Of course, I'm not going for them, but I will pick them to win, and I'll pick them to cover. And I'll say barely cover just because, like you said, Timmy G, the offense really is not great. Now for the last one right here at 7:45, our Volunteers will be hosting the Kent State Golden Flashes, I think. And we're favored right now by 49 points, over under 62.5. How much do you think that we're going to win by in this game, Timmy G? Do you think that we put up 70 points?
I think we could put up 80 if we wanted to.
Oh, I
I
mean, we
mean,
could put up 200
look,
if we really wanted to.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, I think they could because unfortunately that's how poor this team is.
yeah,
And I'm not trying to throw shade at them, but it's the truth.
right.
That's where you're ranked. You were literally ranked the worst team in FBS, right?
Yes.
Like, phew, that's all right. This is where you're at.
Mhm.
But hey, they're getting ready to come in and back the truck up and throw a big bag of cash in for what's getting ready to happen to them and
Yep.
drive home. And guess what? I think they got to do it again next week versus another team that's ranked. And just, it's not good for them.
Yeah.
But look, I would take. I don't think 49 is enough. I think it's going to be more than 49 without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it could be too. It just really all depends on I think it depends on a whole lot of stuff. I don't think that we want to blow this team out too bad just because at this point we're just doing our best to stay healthy. But I do feel like we'll come out, we should score, I'm gonna say at least 4 touchdowns in the first half, maybe 5, maybe 6. And we'll see, we'll probably end up running the football a whole lot
Whole lot.
and shortening up those quarters in the second half so that we can get on up out of this one. Maybe we start to take knees towards the end, but you also want to get the guys in that won't necessarily get an opportunity later on in the season. Let them play, let them get some reps, let them get some good game film. I think that that's also very, very critical. So it's going to be a difficult balancing act, I feel like, for this whole staff. But yeah, I mean, I would expect for our Volunteers to most definitely win by 50 plus. Should be, a very fun game for us to see what the depth looks like, what the future of this team looks like. And man, we'll continue to say this: get in, get out healthy, play a very clean football game. And let's go ahead and turn the page to Oklahoma, starting up, I guess, tomorrow. But that right there is it for today's video. We appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other Volunteer fans. We will see y'all after the game. Thanks. Peace.